Welcome to the Jewelry Resellers Podcast, your go-to source for all things shiny, sparkly, and of course, profitable. I'm your host, Desiree, and I'll be your guide on this dazzling journey through the world of reselling jewelry. We'll be diving deep into the art and science of reselling, uncovering valuable tips, insider secrets, and sharing stories from successful jewelry resellers. We'll explore market trends, industry news, and even discuss how to find those hidden gems just waiting to be discovered in thrift stores, estate sales, and beyond. So if you're dreaming of turning your hobby into a hustle, or if you're a seasoned pro looking to stay at the top of your jewelry reselling game, join me each week for insights, stories, and more on the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. Hey there, jewelry friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. My name is Desiree, and of course, I am your jewelry reselling bestie. Today, we're going to talk about something that I have been dealing with off and on for many years as it relates to my time or career as a reseller, and that is reseller overwhelm and feeling burnt out. And it's something that not a lot of people talk about in this space, not just as a jewelry reseller, but as a reseller in general. And so I wanted to do an episode focusing on that topic because I know other people have told me they've had similar experiences, and I have struggled with this even recently to the point to where I felt like I was ready to quit. And some days I still feel that way. And I'm still not quite sure if this is something I want to continue in the long term. And I still debate whether or not this is something I want to consider doing for forever. So, like I said, we're going to get into that today. Okay? And I think this is something, no matter where you are as it relates to your reselling career or your jewelry reselling business, maybe you are in a different place to where you don't even have to worry about anything like this, or maybe it's something that you know could come up in the future. And so we're going to talk about kind of how you navigate through this. What are some of the causes? What are some things maybe we can do to prevent getting burnt out or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you just question everything and you don't know if this is what you want to do or you should do. So, and you really get invested when you're doing this because there's so much of yourself that you pour into this, that I think it's something that we have to consider as it relates to our current time as a jewelry reseller, and also, like I said, our future as a jewelry reseller or just a reseller in general. All right, so before we do a deep dive into that, I always like to invite you to join our newsletter. When you do, I will send you a list of the 20 best-selling vintage jewelry brands that I think all resellers should know. This is a list that I created from my own personal experience and research, and I will let you have a copy of that list for free. All you have to do is head on over to jewelryresellerspodcast.com, and you can click a link, sign up for the newsletter, and you will have instant access to a download that you can keep on your computer, save on your phone, so when you're out and about, so you will be familiar with and recognize all of the jewelry brands that I think could be the most profitable for you. All right, so I like to go to my notes, as you know I always do. And let's start by talking about some of the causes of jewelry reseller burnout. And this list obviously won't include every little thing that could cause burnout because we're all different and all of us have different tolerance levels. All of us have different expectations and goals and all of that. But these are the main things that I have found myself that have contributed to the feeling of burnout and overwhelm. Okay, So let's go ahead and start with number one, and that is an overwhelming workload. Now, as a reseller, especially a jewelry reseller, we do everything and anything as it relates to our business. And of course, that's the choice we made when we decided to do this. But when you're trying to juggle sourcing, listing, storage and organization, marketing, shipping, customer service, on top of what you're already doing in your life, it can be a lot. And some of us come from, regular jobs, corporate jobs, 9 to 5 jobs or whatever, where we just kind of did what we had to do and then we were able to go home and leave it behind. Well, as a reseller, you don't really have that. I mean, you could have set work hours, of course, but that doesn't always mean that you're not going to be doing something business related in your quote unquote off time. All right. So trying to figure out how to balance everything, if that's even possible in some regards, I don't necessarily believe it is. But trying to figure that out is very challenging. And again, depending on how much other stuff we have to do in our life, it could be a lot. It could be a lot to manage and a lot to deal with. All right. Number two, as it relates to jewelry reseller burnout, is the monotony of the job. And this is something that I really struggle with because my background is in media. I was a news and traffic reporter. And one thing that job was monotonous. There was always something going on. There was always something different every single day. But when it comes to jewelry reselling, there's not a whole lot different that you're doing from day to day. It's basically listing and shipping and taking photos and going to the same places to source. So there's not really a lot of variety. And for me, there's not really any creative expression as it relates to that, because that's another thing that I struggle with as it relates to doing this. And that's one of the reasons why I did this podcast, because I really need to have some form of creative outlet as it relates to reselling, because reselling in and of itself is just not enough for me. Not someone like me who has a very creative spirit and a creative background, and someone who really likes to interact with people. That's something that I feel is, part of my personality. I just really enjoy that. And you don't get a whole lot of that as it relates to reselling. All right, number three, the other cause of reseller burnout is financial pressures. Now, of course, it takes a while to get our jewelry business up and running and generating the revenue that we need or that we desire. And that's really tough when you're trying to do it all by yourself. Now, some of us do have help. Maybe we have partners or spouses or employees or whatever the case may be, but not everybody has that. And so when you have the pressure of trying to hit certain financial goals while you're trying to maintain everything else, it's a lot and it can be kind of scary. And I've been there. And so I know what that feels like. And the fact that you don't have total control of how much money you're making and how often you're making it is something that you have to learn to figure out how you're going to make accommodations for that. Okay. And it's not always easy. So that is reason number three. Reason number four is customer challenges. Now, luckily, this isn't something we have to deal with every single day. But, sometimes you get one bad customer experience and it totally throws you off your game for the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week. I've had this happen where you've had challenging customer experiences, and sometimes, they can just take a toll on us mentally. And so dealing with returns, complaints, difficult customers, dealing with offers and feedback and everything that comes along with that, it's definitely hard. And again, it's not something that you typically have to deal with, when you're working a regular job, unless obviously your job is customer service. But for the most part, if that's your job, it's not going to affect your income in any way because you get paid what you get paid to do. But as a reseller, that can definitely affect our income. So that's something that we think about, a lot. All right. Challenge number 5 is time management issues. Now, again, kind of like what I talked about earlier, when we're trying to balance all of the things that go along with having a reselling business, a jewelry reselling business, trying to figure it all out is not necessarily easy. And sometimes things don't necessarily fall into a neat little schedule. I know that's how it's been for me, especially as a parent. And, trying to get everything done that I need to get done and trying to manage my son's schedule in addition to my schedule and whatever else may be going on with the family, friends, neighbors, or whatever else. So, balancing reselling with your personal life and other commitments is always going to be a challenge. And again, I don't even know if there is any realistic balance as it comes to that, or as it relates to that. I really don't. Some days you're going to spend more time doing this, and then other days you're going to spend more time doing family stuff. And that's just kind of the way it goes. Next up, we have the lack of support. Working alone without a support network can lead to feelings of isolation. Now, this is why I think a lot of resellers do, Facebook groups, coaching groups, that type of thing, because you really don't have anyone in your day-to-day life that you can connect with as being a reseller. Yes, there's probably other resellers locally, but it's not like you connect with them or talk with them on a daily basis. So you may not even see them that frequently. And so I know for me, this is really hard. And that's why I have joined a few of the Facebook groups and coaching groups, because I do need to connect with people. That's just that's just my personality. In addition to connecting with a lot of you through this podcast and also on social media and stuff like that. But I do think that, even if you're introverted, we're still social creatures and we still need that human interaction. And we just don't get a lot of that as resellers. And finally, my last challenge or cause of reseller burnout is market competition, is what I wrote down. Constantly keeping up with competitors and market trends can be overwhelming. And this is something like, I think everybody kind of has a different opinion, because some people don't believe in the concept of competition. Some people think that, you don't necessarily have to keep up with trends or whatever, doing what we do. And to some degree, I think that's true, but it's also something to think about, because as we know, especially jewelry resellers, there's hundreds upon hundreds or thousands upon thousands of people out there reselling jewelry nowadays. So it's not like how it was even just a few years ago. So I think competition is something that we do have to keep in mind, although it doesn't have to be something that is so scary and so consuming that we that we worry about it. But I know for some people, they do worry about it. And again, we all have different, perceptions and opinions. So this is something we have to think about as well. Okay, so those are some of the things I wrote down as it relates to jewelry resellers feeling burnt out, feeling overwhelmed, or stressed. So now I want to talk about some of the things we can do to overcome, or maybe to not be so affected by burnout. Now, I do have to be transparent in the sense, and I will admit this, that I'm kind of going through a little bit of this right now. Not that I want to stop reselling, stop jewelry reselling or anything like that, but I am starting to question how much longer I want to do this. And is this something that I can see myself doing, in the future? Maybe for fun here and there. But as a business, I think I may, have other ideas of, how I would like to make money. Now, I love jewelry, and so I will never, ever not look at and appreciate and even collect some jewelry pieces. But I don't know if doing this as a business is something that will be in my long-term goals. I just don't. And a lot of it has to do for many of the reasons that I just shared with you, because I can relate to each and every one of those points. But because we're not going to go into, what I'm doing or not doing as it relates to this, I do want to give you some what I believe are going to be helpful tips to help you, again, not be so affected by burnout, or to really figure out, maybe this is something that I can learn to work with or work through. All right, so let's talk about how to overcome jewelry reseller burnout. Number one is to set realistic goals. So, again, you've got to really kind of have a vision for yourself and know what your long term plans are and what your ideas are as it relates to the future of your business. Now, some people want to take this as far as they can go, and some people are happy, kind of doing this as a part-time thing, whatever works in your life. But I know for me, kind of visualizing what I want the end goal to be helps me deal with the current state of feeling overwhelmed, or the current, um, you know, feelings that I have right now as it relates to burnout. Okay, so set some realistic goals and figure out what it is that you want to do, how long you want to do it, and how things will look, in the future for you. All right, number two, you want to prioritize self-care. I'm going to throw in and add, you want to prioritize your mental health, because self-care, at least from what I know, is really focusing on the physical, getting good sleep, exercising, eating right, that type of thing. But I also think that your mental health is just as important. And we have to really figure out, um, again, how much mental energy we are going to devote to our business. Now, some days you're going to be all in, 100%. And, you're going to have days like that. And I have days like that as well. But I don't want to feel so mentally exhausted doing this. And some days I do feel that way. Let me know if you can relate. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave me a comment and let me know if this resonates with you. And if you're listening to the audio version, leave me a comment either on the website or on Spotify, wherever, and let me know your thoughts, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one dealing with this. But um, the idea, I believe, came to me for a reason. So there's probably somebody else out there who may be having a similar feeling or going through a similar experience. All right. Number three, as it relates to overcoming jewelry reseller burnout, is to delegate tasks as much as you can. Now, I know not everybody is in a position to outsource or to hire employees, but in some cases, you can automate some of the things in your business, right? So you can maybe use some AI tools, maybe you can use some scheduling tools, whatever the case may be. And that will help you not have to be worrying about every single little tiny minute detail in your business. Now, again, this may or may not work for you, but I think it's something worth considering if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So you can use some of these tools for repetitive tasks so you can free up time and you can reduce your stress levels. All right, number four, as it relates to overcoming jewelry reseller burnout, is to stay organized. Now, this is something that I know is a challenge for so many of us, because we're constantly bringing in new merchandise or new inventory. And so we've got to make sure that we can, process it when we get it, because you have your unlisted jewelry, you have your jewelry that is listed, and then you have jewelry that, you don't know what you're going to do with yet. So trying to figure out an organization system and a maintenance system is a lot. And that is something that it's taken me, I want to say, at least a year. And even my system is not perfect. All right. So figure out how you can keep your inventory, and your finances and your schedules in check, and try to allow yourself enough time to do what you need to do so you can stay organized. Number five is to connect with others. I think I talked about this a little bit earlier. So we talked about joining reseller communities, groups, meetups, whatever, for support, advice, and to share the experience and to feel less isolated and less alone. And I think this is something that is definitely helpful And I have benefited from this in so many ways. And I honestly don't know if I would still be doing this if I didn't have some of the support that I've had over the years just by connecting with other resellers. All right, now this is something that was interesting, and I threw this on my list because this is something I have done, and that is to refresh your inventory. You know how sometimes you look at the same stuff day in, day out, and it gets kind of stale. Now, maybe you don't have a lot of money to buy a whole bunch of new stuff, but sometimes just getting some new pieces or buying something different than what you normally buy is enough to kind of throw in some new energy into your business because you're excited by something different or you're excited about learning about something new that maybe you didn't know a whole lot about before. So if you can figure out ways to keep your business fresh, your inventory fresh, maybe incorporating some new ideas or doing something differently, or maybe having more fun doing something than you normally do, I think it's a great way to kind of reset, refresh, and give yourself a new perspective on what it is that you're doing so you don't feel the drudgery of doing the same thing day in and day out. All right, now this is one that I need to get better at, and that is scheduling some downtime, taking some time off. Now, when I first started my jewelry reselling business, I wasn't really in a position to take time off. Like I couldn't afford to. And luckily it's not like that anymore, but I do have moments where I get nervous about taking time off, or I get nervous about not working, say, every day or a certain number of hours every day. So again, I don't know if balance is really possible. I know a lot of people talk about that, but I honestly don't think it is, because everything is going to kind of fluctuate as it relates to what's important at different times and different stages of our life. So, but to prevent burnout, you are going to have to find ways to recharge, and you are going to have to find ways to decompress and to disconnect from what it is that you're doing. And it's not always easy. All right. So do the best that you can with that. Like I said, I speak from experience. I know it's not easy. And sometimes it's hard to mentally grasp that that's what you need to do. But every time I have done it, I have felt better, and it has rejuvenated me in a way that I don't think anything else could. All right. And finally, you want to reflect on your why. Why are you doing this? Why is it important? Why do you want to continue to do this if you are continuing to do this? Is this something that you see yourself doing long term? Is this, like I said earlier, is this something that you want to grow? Or is this just something you're doing for now because it's fun and maybe, it just kind of fits with your interests? Some people consider this a very expensive hobby. But for me, when I think about why I started this, it was really out of necessity. And it was out of what I believed I could do at the time. And to some degree, what I still believe I'm capable of right now. And I really do enjoy being a jewelry reseller. But in some ways, I want more, and I want to have a much more fulfilling experience. And I don't know if jewelry reselling can necessarily deliver that in the way that I want or in the way that I expect. Now, this is not to downplay or down talk jewelry reselling at all. As a matter of fact, it's one of the most enjoyable jobs that I've had, but it does have some things that I believe for me are missing. And again, I think that all falls back into my personality and what I enjoy as it relates to work and serving other people and making connections and doing all the things that I do, or as we do as jewelry resellers. So you want to remind yourself why you started reselling, to reignite your passion and your motivation. And I think this is key. Now, when we think about being motivated to do our business, motivation really is something that I don't think we can rely on or depend on long term, because motivation comes and goes. And this is where discipline comes in. If we are committed to making our business work and making it profitable, then we definitely have to have a disciplined mindset and a disciplined, I guess, outlook as it relates to what we do. And that's not always easy to cultivate because it's a new habit. It's kind of rewiring our brain in some regards. Okay, so those are the things that I believe can help overcome or get through reseller burnout. Now, what am I doing to overcome my own feelings of burnout? Well, I've started doing a lot more of other things. So I don't know, as some of you may or may not know, jewelry reselling isn't the only thing that I do. I do this podcast, which I absolutely love and I'm very passionate about, but I also love doing other things. I love writing. I love social media. So I have a couple of other YouTube channels that I work on and create content for. I also have some other side hustles and some side gigs that I can focus on more if I feel like the jewelry thing is becoming too much. And I think that's probably one tip that I can share. If you do feel burnt out or if you do feel stressed, maybe set up some other ways for you to make money so you can take a little break when you need to. Because I'm going to tell you, the jewelry is still going to be here. And there's always going to be people looking for the jewelry. There's always going to be buyers. There's always going to be sellers. And so if you need to take a break or disconnect for a little while, give yourself permission to do that, because that's definitely something that I have done and probably will continue to do, because I can't say, like I said, what the future holds. I do know that I will always do something jewelry related. I don't know if I'll always do something reselling related, although, for the past few years of my life, that's kind of what it's been. And so who's to say that that will change? I mean, in some regards, I would love it to change. And then when I think about it differently, sometimes there's something very comforting and familiar as it relates to reselling. And so I don't really want to let it go. But I know that it's not the end all. What is it? The end all be all for me. But, I don't know because I'm starting to feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe this was just an episode for me to talk out some things, but I really do hope that this is helpful. And I do hope that it resonates with someone who may be having similar feelings, or maybe even someone who is considering quitting altogether, because I've had that feeling as well, where I just want to get rid of it all and let it all go. But there is something that I truly enjoy about doing this, and that is part of what keeps me going. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts, friends. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know if you've felt like this or if you have struggled with feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. I would love to start a discussion on this and really support you in whatever way I can, because I know when you're doing this, you don't have a lot of people to talk to or talk with about it. And sometimes even your closest friends and family may not understand because they're not resellers. So if there is anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. And keep me posted on your thoughts and your feelings on this topic. And if it's something that I think we need to revisit, I have no problem doing a follow-up or part 2 to this episode. All right, so before I go, I do want to remind you once more that if you'd like to join the newsletter, please visit jewelryresellerspodcast.com, and there is lots of information there. You can also access all of the past episodes, as well as some blog posts and helpful links that I think will definitely be of interest to you if you are a jewelry reseller. All right, friends, thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will check in with you again very soon.